I always have a
Process. Yep. Okay, terrific. Good evening, everyone. My name is David McFadden. Welcome to the January regular meeting. It's January 18th at 7 p.m. Let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chair McFadden,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Shaw. We'll come back to her. Trustee Brooke,
Present.
Trustee Casker,
Present.
Trustee Shara.
Present via Zoom.
Thank you.
All right.
And Deputy Mayor Shaw.
Yeah, she just logged it.
We'll
She'll-
just give her another minute.
Okay. I'll just go through Mayor's comments. I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. And so with that said, do any of the trustees have comments about the minutes?
No.
Okay. So let's go to reports. Is Jim going to be coming down? Do you know?
I don't know.
Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Okay. Do you want to skip that, or
Yeah, why don't we give Jim just a few minutes?
let's give Jim a few minutes? Okay. All right. Brian,
Yes,
not to
sir.
put you on the spot immediately,
Do it.
but we have this meeting scheduled, the joint public hearing with the town
Right.
on the annexation. Do you want to give us a brief overview of what we should expect and so on and so forth, what material we'll need? I know that I think you have written a joint resolution, but if you could just give us a brief rundown on what we would expect.
Sure. So this involves two parcels in the village that were part of the Tuxedo Farm special permit process years ago. And part of that special permit process with the town involved a lot of land buffers and things for the village, but two of these parcels were what they called annexation parcels. And the obligation was that as part of this process, these two parcels would be annexed into the village of Tuxedo Park. And they kind of lie on the outskirts right now, bordering on the park. It would have been Tuxedo Partners as the owners, but then the parcels were purchased by Rattlesnake Preserve, which is Michael Bruno's organization. And he took on the obligation to then go forward with the annexation. So the notices have been put out for the hearing on the 23rd, and basically the village and the town make a determination whether it's in the best interest to annex the parcels. Then there's a 60-day window following that hearing to issue what they call an order for annexation. So that's, the public hearing is the first process to hear anybody that wishes to speak on it. And I believe in the original documents, the town kind of agreed that it would take a position supporting the annexation. So I don't think there's much controversy, but obviously people can chime in on that. The one parcel there's going to be preserved. The other one, I think there's a potential for residential, 4 lots or something eventually.
Mhm.
Right now, there's no plan for that, but there's one of the parcels can be built upon with, I think, up to 4 residential lots.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Brian on this process?
So it does not sound like there'd be any controversy about the annexation.
I'm sorry.
There'll be no controversy on. the
Well, again,
annexation.
their agreement under that special permit was that they would support the annexation. So if they were to take a different position, then
Yeah, but it's highly unlikely, so it's going to be a relative non-event.
other than, of course, the public can speak on it and state their positions.
One question I have is there a way that we would split property taxes for the upcoming tax year?
Yeah,
Or is
there's
that,
a process for allotment of any expenses, fees, taxes that would be worked out as part of the order once it moves forward.
Mhm. So we're going to appear in the town hall,
Yes.
and who's going to conduct the meeting?
That could be determined by, when you arrive there, but usually one person would probably be designated as chair, however you want to do that.
Okay.
And then really be opened up to the public at that point after initial presentation of, what is going on. We do have
Right.
a map showing the two parcels that from the special permit process, if anybody wants to see that, I could share that tonight, once I get on the Zoom, if you want to
Okay.
see that.
Thank you. Jim, did you want to make a presentation with John?
I'm not really prepared to do that. I
Okay.
sent to the board
Right.
all the information about the New York Power Authority
Mhm.
offers. And you have, I can say something.
Well,
if you want, but it seems to me.
I mean, you could certainly keep it narrow and focused. Just for
Yeah.
those of us that haven't been working closely with your committee and trustee Share, I would certainly like to just get a little brief
Okay.
overview.
This is a program that the New York Power Authority offers to municipalities. It's not open to residents. And we asked if they were to supply us with, for the village government, electricity, what rates would they give us? And they gave us three options for three types of contract years: a 1-year contract, 2-year contract, 3-year contract. And that all came through at Christmas time, and there wasn't time to do anything about it. So
Right.
we asked for another one, and they extended it so it can be decided at this meeting.
Mhm.
And basically, they offer within the three options within each contract year is basically fossil fuel supplied energy, 50% renewable, and 100% renewable. And the rates they give us, they've offered us are 41 to 46% less than what you are currently paying from Orange and Rockland. So these are potentially big savings.
Is this a state situation?
Yes, New York Power Authority, the state.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar with them in detail, perhaps our lawyer is, but they are sort of acting like Orange and Rockland,
Mhm.
but for municipalities. And so they buy electricity from various sources and then they distribute it. So just as Orange and Rockland buys
Mhm.
electricity from various sources and distributes it.
Mhm.
What is sometimes confusing is when you talk about green energy, what do you mean? They're not green electrons. Nobody knows where the electrons go once they enter the grid. What is important is where the dollars go.
Mhm.
So if Orange and Rockland buys green energy, they pay some green energy producer who then adds those electrons to the grid. Then Orange and Rockland takes a similar number of
Mhm.
electrons off, but they're not the same electrons.
Mhm.
Nobody knows anything
So
about it.
this runs in parallel, though, with our other effort with the fellow that we hired.
Choice aggregation.
Choice aggregation.
That's for the residential,
Okay.
and it might well cover the government as well.
Well, thank you very much for your efforts on this. I'm sorry, please.
Just one added thing,
Mhm.
the difference between the dollars for the cost for electricity that is made with fossil fuels versus the electricity that is green, that would amount to the property that pays the highest taxes in this community. The difference would be $128.
Mhm.
The fossil fuel produced electricity would be $128 less.
Mhm.
So that would be lost. Nobody would notice the difference.
Right.
So I would strongly recommend that whatever duration you choose, that it be 100%.
And do you have a recommendation? Do you have a recommendation on years? 1, 2, or 3?
Yep.
On 3.
Just so you can plan ahead.
Mhm. John, do you concur with that?
Yes.
Josh, do you concur with that?
I do. I guess I have a question, if I may, for Jim.
Please.
Jim, if we go to 100% renewable, are there additional benefits that
Sorry,
we
Hold
would
on one
get?
sec.
Yep.
Could you repeat that a little louder? I'm sorry.
Yep. If we take the 100% renewable option, are there additional benefits that we get? Are there check marks that we get that would allow us to get other green grants or the like?
Yes. This supplies a rather large number of points toward our certification as a bronze certified climate smart community, which then opens up the opportunity to apply for grants. It doesn't guarantee we get them, but it is a limited field that has that option to apply.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Jim.
And I think that's a really important point, because you can't just look at the cost analysis independently. You have to take into account the other benefits that we get by going 100% renewable. So
Is that your recommendation, Josh?
it is mine, yes.
So 100%, and how many years?
I would go for 3. I read Matt Tenari's very helpful analysis and agree with his sort of negotiating strategy, which is you really
Right.
want to try and close the rates between the 1 and 3 year options. But that's a negotiation.
Right, okay. And did you get a chance to read his final?
I did.
Okay, great. So we can consider that.
Yeah.
All right, to the board, and the public will be voting on this later in the meeting. Does anyone have any questions now before we move on? Thank you, Jim. Okay, so we had switched those 2 presentations, and we have with us Jeff. Would you like to give us a DPW rundown, please?
Did a lot of work down at the police station. There was one wood window that was completely rotted out, so Dan hadn't built a completely new window. We did a leaf cleanup of the large triangle on Tuxedo Road and East Lake Road. Took down the Christmas lights and decorations, cleaned drains and catch basins ahead of the heavy rain before Christmas.
Annexation.
Because of the rains around Christmas and the rapid freezing, we had to salt on the 5 or 6 days after that. And the week of between Christmas and New Year's, we spent scraping ice off the road. We received and stored salt deliveries, cut down stumps at the racetrack from earlier tree removals we did in the fall. Picked up Christmas trees, had a water main break on Camp Comfort Road.
Oh, the
last week.
DPW does that. All these years, I didn't know who picked up the trees. Thank you.
We installed smoke and carbon monoxide detectors down at the police station and keep. Removed the fallen tree on Pine Road. Installed emergency lighting at the police station. With water and sewer, finished the 4th quarter water meter readings. Obtained weekly readings from village meters. Replaced water filters keep in the lodge. Replaced broken toilet handle at the keep. Did various water and sewer markouts for Big Safe New York. Worked with leak detection, searching for leaks, which we ended up finding a few downtown and one on Lookout Road. We had cleared a sewer blockage on Serpentine Road, and we had a problem with one of the filters at the water plant a couple weeks back. And after speaking with the filter manufacturer and having our electrician come down to go through the control panel, he found a blown 1/2 amp fuse that caused the problem.
Okay, that happens.
So we were able to get that back up and running,
Right.
no problem.
Right.
So,
Thank you very much. Chief?
Okay, so we had 296 blotters or calls for service. 1 criminal case reported, 1 motor vehicle accident. We issued 10 traffic tickets, 23 warnings. There was 1 fire call, 4 medical calls. We assisted the town once. We patrolled 2,704 miles. And the vehicle count is dropping of vehicles coming into the village down to 641 average.
Probably because of the holiday.
Most likely, yeah.
We have an echo. I wonder if that's in the other room. Did you have any issues with the gate system?
There's always ongoing issues that are minor. Repositioning of the camera, things of that nature. If a car doesn't pull up close enough to the booth, it might not read the plate.
Right.
We've been having those issues.
And have you talked to him about expanding possibly the, and
They tried.
they try.
They
Okay.
tried.
But in general,
In general, it's
It's
working great.
okay,
In general,
good. And we're going to be talking later about a matter of the Tuxedo Club
Southgate.
and the Southgate. So we'll get to that later on. And would you like to just address, if you don't mind, the situation with the four-wheel drive vehicles, the
Yes.
all-terrain vehicles, and who reported it, how it happened, and how you resolved it.
The person that reported it asked to remain anonymous,
No
so I'm
problem.
gonna respect that.
Mhm.
But it was a resident and he made a complaint back in December.
So it's a
and then-
he, that's half the population. Okay, keep going.
He observed these ATV, UTV type vehicles going by his house, loud exhaust on them. So we reported it one Saturday night that it occurred, and then about 2 weeks later, it occurred again. So he was very vigilant and went out and he saw tire tracks coming from the Fox Hill Trail onto Clubhouse Road. So Officer Serene went and walked those tracks and followed it down to Stevens Lane in the town of Tuxedo and knocked on the door and spoke to the resident there who has a UTV.
Mhm.
And he recently bought the house there and said, you know, the reason why I bought the house was so I could ride my ATV. So we explained to him that, you know, he's trespassing.
Right.
He has to cross Michael Bruno's property to get into the village property. And can't ride. What they were doing was coming up Fox Hill Trail, riding down Clubhouse Road, and then over towards Pine Road, Pine Ridge, and then getting on the trails and going all the way out to Sloatsburg.
Oh, okay.
So we gave a very stern warning
Mhm.
to the gentleman, and we told him if it happens again, he will be arrested and we will impound his machine or, you know, UTV.
Mhm.
And I made recommendations that we put a few boulders where they can come across,
Mhm.
where they're crossing at Fox Hill,
Mhm.
and that's where we stand.
Okay.
We haven't had any complaints since.
Good. Thank you. I'll come to you, John, after we go through a couple things. Also, I posted the annual report that you had authored. Chief, thank you very much. It's on the website if anyone else didn't get it. We also have a Justice Court report online, the Fike bird count report online, which is worth reading. Information from VRI on the water plant, a water adjustment justification report, water pumping report, water Q4 malfunction report, water synopsis for January. I'm going to now, and I encourage everyone to look at those. A lot of effort goes into those reports by the village employees, and they're very informative. So I just want to mention that you should give them a look if you have time. John, would you like to give your report?
I'll just give you a summary. If you have any questions after the meeting or later in the week, please feel free to email me. Most of the village projects are going along fairly well. The Pays property, the Rifkin property, and several others are proceeding without any difficulties. I did send a notice to Mr. Urmansky regarding a damaged stone pillar that's been in disrepair for some time. And I've also been in touch with the owners of 72 Lookout Road, or trying to get in touch with them regarding some property maintenance issues outside the house. And I would like to inspect the property. It's been a long time since anybody's seen what's going on inside. The highlights would be, you may remember that Orange and Rockland offered us an opportunity to apply for free LED streetlights. I received an email, I believe, late last week. They are allotting us 4 LED lights at this time. The village can choose which lights we want to be replaced. It's up to us what we would like to do. And if we would like to replace any additional fixtures, we would have to pay $667 a piece, or we can wait until the next period where they're giving us free lights. So that's a good news. Let's see here. I did post 6 or 7 items on the Auctions International website again to see if we can raise a little bit of money. And obviously working with Jim Hayes on the climate smart issues, and attended a continuing education class early in the week to get an hour and a half of continuing education credit.
What was that, building department?
Energy code and existing buildings. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the highlights.
Okay, did you have anything else you wanted to present to the board that might require approval?
There's one issue I'd like to mention to the board in executive session regarding a damaged wall,
Mhm.
and that's all I have for now.
Okay, very good. All right. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's do public comments. I'll start with anyone in the room that has a question. I'm sorry. Does anyone have a question for John? Okay, I'll move now to the people on Zoom. Does anyone have a question or comment on the agenda? Okay. Consent agenda, approving minutes, add all written reports to the permanent record, as well as several members of the community that wrote letters, and those would be on the tree issue. We're putting into the record a letter from Jim Hayes, the planning board via Joanne Hanson, an email from Chuyan Hempel. What else? I know we have, I think, two more.
Sally Soni,
Sally Sani,
Joanne Hanson,
got Joanne, and then Elizabeth.
Jim Hayes as well.
Jim Hayes, I mentioned, yeah, and Elizabeth.
And this was called.
So those are being put into the record. This is in regards to the tree issue. We had been discussing potential changes to the local law on trees. So they're on file if anyone would like to see them as of now. We also have an approval of the firewall software. It's a renewal of the WNS annual agreement renewal. I'm formally requesting this evening to receive the police and DPW draft budgets. Let's schedule a grievance day. What do you suggest?
Typically, it's held the third Tuesday in February. That date would be the 21st of February. The Board of Trustee meeting would typically be the third Wednesday the week before.
Mhm. And this requires all of the trustees who act as the Board of Assessment, Board of Assessors.
It requires that we have a majority present all the time. It doesn't have to be the same people if
Mhm.
somebody had to leave early, but we have to have a
And we typically
majority.
do what, 6 to 9 or something?
I believe it's 5 to 9. Has to be
5 to
4
9.
hours.
What's the date you're suggesting?
It would be the 21st of February. How does that grab you?
That's fine with me.
Tinka?
Yeah.
Joshua?
Could be challenging,
Okay. Maybe you can zoom in?
maybe.
Okay. All right. So I'm available.
I'm
Paul?
available.
Okay, so
This
we have a
is
quorum.
5 to 9.
5 to 9. It's brutal.
It's required that the board sits for 4 hours, or at least the
Mhm.
majority sits for 4
All
hours.
right. That said, we need to schedule the Board of Assessors meeting. Do you have a recommendation on that, John?
My expectation is I will give the board some draft suggested changes by this Friday
Mhm.
afternoon. And I would need to have everything finalized, at least the numbers would have to be approved and finalized a few days ahead of the 31st
Of
of
January.
January. So my suggestion is if I get you numbers Friday afternoon,
Mhm.
if we could have a meeting the middle to end of the following week, 25th, 26th, 27th of January.
What's the date of our dual public hearing, Brian?
23rd.
23rd. Okay, thank you. And so what are you recommending?
I'd like to say the 26th, if that's possible,
Okay. And at what time?
of January, sir.
Of January. And that would be
At
7 o'clock?
Anytime convenient with the board. It doesn't have to be
Mhm. What day is the 26th?
Thursday.
Thursday. How's your schedule for that,
I'm good.
Paul?
What time?
Well, we
It's
have,
up to the board,
Yeah.
whenever you can, whenever you can make it.
I mean, we could do it early. No? 6-ish?
I mean, early, anytime after 3, I should be
Okay.
okay.
How about
Okay,
you, Tinka
during the day.
and Joshua?
I'm good.
The time is no
So
issue.
look,
Okay.
26 is an issue for me. February
Mhm.
21st, I can do.
Mm-hmm. Which day?
21st
So
he can do in
I'm
February.
just going back
21st
to
of-
the
February, he can do.
February I can do. January 26th.
Okay.
January 26th is a problem.
That's okay. I think we'll go ahead and schedule it. And if you
Okay.
can make it, I mean, we have a quorum, so. Okay,
What time are we doing that for?
let's do it at 6.
Josh, does any other day work, the 27th or something? Or that end of the week is bad for you?
How long a meeting is that?
It's,
Only as long as it takes
Couple hours
for us
max.
to agree to the numbers.
yeah, we're gonna
It could be
We-
a half
we
hour, it could
discuss
be an hour.
each situation and however long that takes.
Okay, so we're talking about January 26th,
At 6,
3 hours,
2.
I don't think 3.
2 hours.
Yeah. Mhm.
Book out 2, but I don't think it'll be 2.
Mhm. So we have the 21st, the 23rd, and the 26th. This only happens once a year, folks.
That's assessor date.
Pardon?
That's the assessor's date.
Yes, the 26th.
David, I think we're confusing things.
Oh, the 31st?
The 21st is the grievance hearing in February.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then in January, we were talking about the 26th, which is next Thursday. For meeting to discuss any changes to the
The
assessment.
Board of Assessors meeting.
Board of Assessors meeting.
Okay,
So whether it's the 26th or 27th, at whatever time.
let's go
is
26.
Okay.
And then we have our meeting with the town on the 23rd. What time is that, by the way?
7, I think.
Okay.
Not sure.
All right, so that's set in stone. We also have approving the New York State FOLA membership, CSLAP participation. And I'd also like to mention that architect Barry Rice, who has in the past consulted with our bar on applications, is available to do it and also interested in helping us update the design guidelines. So I'd like to seek a proposal from him. And other than that, okay, so do any of the trustees have any comments or questions about the consent agenda?
Nothing from me.
Okay. All right. Resolve to approve consent agenda items A through J. May I have a second?
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Okay,
So do we record that? Tinker did the second or not?
yeah, let's take it. We'll do the second.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing personal. Okay, so thank you. Let's move on to old business. We have some bar openings to discuss. Everyone's been interviewed and checked and met satisfaction with the trustees. And that would be a nomination of Paula Tochi as chair, replacing the term of Sheila Tralins, Molly Gonzalez to complete the term of Josh Aaron, and Stephanie Rinza, replacing the term of Christopher Boshears. Any questions? Resolve to make those appointments. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. John, we discussed this on the phone, but the new members of the bar, and congratulations, would like to review the open projects, consult with you and the remaining bar members to come up to speed. And so they're recommending postponing the next bar meeting so that they'd have time to do that. I think the next bar meeting is tomorrow night. Would that be acceptable?
It's really a bar meeting. If they need time to get up to speed, I can't disagree with that.
They've all expressed that. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't think we need to vote on that. There is an opening for the planning board. Matthew Teneri, replacing the term of Portia Hinshaw. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. I know you guys spoke, so. Yeah. Okay, thank you. New business. All right, so I'll set the resolution and then we'll discuss it and vote. Resolve to approve QuickBooks consulting agreement with 4Lane.
Sorry, I think Tinker's trying to say something.
Pardon?
What about the several requests by Jeff Domansky? Is that an old agenda? for the new business?
Actually, no, you probably have one that we don't have. Would you read that, please, that agenda item?
It says, discuss several requests by Jeff Domanski regarding use of Village Hall and Village website.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So he contacted us and wanted to know if he could host events in the Village Hall. Is that correct?
He said in the village.
Okay, so with
I
the
suggested Village Hall.
Village Hall, what would those events be?
He didn't give me more specific.
Okay, and he also requested something be put on the website.
Yes,
Have you reviewed that?
no,
Okay, has anyone had a chance to review
I
that?
haven't gotten anything from him to review.
David, Michelle Lindsay just raised her hand. She may have information. I don't know.
Okay, Michelle? Michelle?
Hi,
Hi.
good evening. Yes, Jeff Domanski is currently organizing information meetings.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that's what he's talking to you about. We're in that 90-day period where we're reaching out to the customers to explain the community choice aggregation. And there are 2 events scheduled at the library that are also open to obviously village residents. There, it'll be on the town's website, but I'll send it also to Elizabeth so she can post it on the village website.
Mhm.
And then the Climate Smart Community Task Force is hosting an information meeting via Zoom only on
Mhm.
February 16th.
And will Jeff be on that as well?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put it out to you, Jim. Do you want to host a meeting?
Well, I think we're doing it jointly. Isn't that right, Michelle?
Yes, but I think because we're 2 different municipalities, that there has to be one specifically held in the village.
Okay.
Yes.
Josh, were you doing something about this? I wasn't sure.
I just received the information after I returned from my vacation,
Right.
which is why I wanted to just get it out there. Now, I'm happy to work with you all and schedule something. If the board doesn't mind, I'll just take that and run with it.
Josh and I talk about it and get back to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tinka. Is there anything else I'm missing, Tinka? I hope you'll let me know.
What I see.
Okay.
Then it was the, what was it again?
Did we do Matthew Teneri? Yes. We did the thing. Okay, so QuickBooks.
Did you want to talk about that? At one point, there was.
Oh, right. Yeah, I do. Thank you. All right. We had a mix up with the agenda at the last minute. It's all on me. Anyway, I just wanted to discuss potentially passing a resolution next month, encouraging the appointed boards, planning board, bar, and zoning, board of zoning appeal, to take the responsibility of posting all of their minutes online, which is required by law, as well as the recorded sessions that on Zoom, those also have to be posted. And I'm willing to show members of that, the appointed boards, how to do it. But this is something that we have to catch up on. We don't have any minutes posted,
The Board of Trustee minutes are posted.
just Board of Trustee minutes. But we need all the others posted. So, all right, so that's just to lay that out there. And I'll work with the boards on that. Sir.
For committees, they're not required.
No. No, committees are advisory, so they're not really subject to open meetings law.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, are we ready for QuickBooks? Tika? All right.
Yeah.
So in anticipation of training and consulting services on QuickBooks, we put in 20,000 into this current budget. We have since gone out and solicited different consultants and prices. The proposal is online. I believe it's around $35,000 total. And I'd like to strongly recommend that we do that. And I'm thinking that we can, if there's monies that we need, we can put it into the next budget coming up, because this isn't a 2-month thing. But we really need it. They've discovered a variety of things in the way we set up QuickBooks that when completed, when revised, will be very beneficial to us. And they're also in their proposal proposing procedure manuals. So in other words, what should the Board of Trustees look for? What reports would we run on a matter? What would John run? And so on and so forth, and how we input information. It will be very helpful to future trustees and mayors, and so forth, and John, of course, and Elizabeth. So I recommend it. Anybody have any questions about that? All right.
Hold on, I'm trying to think how to ask. So I watched the actual video that Elizabeth and Tinka were on.
Oh, good.
Zoom call. It's a lot. My only question is, are we actually going to use everything? I think it's $42,000 because there's an $8,000 like what do they call it
For the new
maintenance
software.
fee or
probably software. If we
no,
change.
no.
This
and
is
it-
4 lanes charge. I
Oh,
think.
okay. An annual charge.
it's an annual, like,
Right.
they do check-ins, make
Mhm,
sure,
mhm.
For
and
the first year, that charge.
just for
will go
one
down.
extra year.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And then there's another thing about being able to remote in. I think they use something Skyline. They reference some program. And then also QuickBook Enterprise. I don't know what the costs are for those. Was
Well,
that
we haven't,
discussed?
Well, that's something to be determined. I mean, because it would be hosted remotely or whatever by Skyline, if that's the option we wanted to do, which I think is what Mac's inclination is to automate as much as we can. But in order to go beyond the enterprise desktop version, we would have to have that priced out with Skyline or whatever it's called. So.
And I did contact 4Lane about the QuickBooks
Can you speak up a
charge.
little bit?
I'm sorry, I did contact 4Lane about how much QuickBooks would be charging us.
Yeah.
And she gave me 2 different scenarios. First of all, she was asking how many people would be using the software. And I know the more people that use it, the more expensive it gets. So I thought initially, well, Denise and I would have to have our own licenses. And then I thought maybe the board could share one because, you'd just be going in periodically, I think, to.
As long as it was only view,
So anyway,
Yeah, you
Right.
can set it
I
up
mean-
that way. Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
but anyway.
You compartmentalize it for
So
security.
there was one price for up to 4, which would allow our accountants also to come in. And then there's another price for more, and I have them printed out. You could also pay, if you just pay lump sum annually, it's like 2,800. Otherwise, it's like $250 a month. But I do have the fees right there if you want me to pull it out.
No,
for you.
I just
Okay.
want to make sure that we're not missing anything, right?
Right.
And then
Absolutely.
You're
the-
right.
The other thing is, I know you've talked to me, mentioned before about how QuickBooks sets up like 5 different companies because it's
Right.
not really designed.
We're going to be
the
getting
way
away
municipal-
from that, I think.
And then I heard them talk about you can do one company and
Right.
multiple classes
Right.
and that. So
Right.
it sounds like definitely the right thing to do. To me, it was sticker shock. I just want to
Right.
make sure that this is what
What's
use
your
everything
view?
we're paying for.
What's your view?
I mean, I'm not that sure, we did get a quote from what I'm going to call, a different sort of accounting software that's more made for municipalities. I know the town of Tuxedo uses it, the village of Monroe uses it, and it was to start off with $30,000. And initially it was like, we all pulled back, but now it seems like we're in that price range again.
Okay.
And I
That's
know
really
with the
good.
other software, it's like you can run reports by department, for instance, which, is
Right.
kind of what you do when you have a police department and a DPW, you tend to, and I don't know if QuickBooks has that capability. We've survived till now without it. So, I just feel like whatever everyone else is comfortable
So,
with, I'll manage. with.
I would say I'm a huge fan of automation. I think when it creates less errors, when there's less keystrokes and things are happening automatically. As it's definitely worth the investment as long as we're going to embrace it and everybody uses it to the maximum.
I think though the point of, overseeing their consulting services and making sure that we're not going way too deep in stuff that we're not going to utilize is a valid concern. And I think Tinka, will handle that for us. And so I do recommend it.
Yeah, on that, Tinka, I did hear that you guys had a conversation at the end of that Zoom call where, I think Elizabeth, you actually pushed back a little bit, said,
Right.
that's a lot of money. And they recommended that we have a discussion.
Mhm.
And so, those details are beyond what I understand from that one Zoom call. But as the mayor just kind of suggested, if you do a deep dive and just kind of be like, I don't know if we really need
Mhm.
this, and save a couple $1,000.
I think that's worthwhile, Tinka, to at least go back to them. Why don't you and Elizabeth and I review that tomorrow if possible, or Friday, and then make a decision. We'll have the authority to do it, but we'll see if we can, narrow it down to certain things we know we want and see how that affects the
And-
price.
And,
I think-
just along Chris's, what Chris is saying, I completely agree with him. I think you got to be really careful about buying a bunch of stuff that we don't end up using, and maybe having a conversation about, start with a core and then expanding later to the extent we
Mhm.
need it, right? Like,
Mhm.
I completely, Chris, everything you said makes a ton of sense. And software is a scary thing. In my professional experience, I've had a number of situations where we spent a lot of money on software and have been maybe overly ambitious, and it's been very expensive. So I would say start small and expand as we need it, would be my recommendation.
So I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to listen to the first meeting with 4Lane. Yeah, based on that first meeting, I don't know what you feel, Mac. I think that the second meeting where they went through what we need and stuff, I think they spent a lot of time on how we do things now. They looked at all our files within the different companies and, asked questions like, why are we doing this or doing that? And the fact that and I think this is what's going to be the most time consuming part and costliest part of this whole thing, is actually putting together a standard operating procedural manual for the village and for Debbie and for anyone who might come in. As I made very clear, what if Elizabeth wins the lottery tomorrow and you're done?
She would stay.
I'm sorry.
She would stay.
Yeah. But I think long-term wise, I think it's a very valuable thing that they would be putting together for the village for the long term. And hopefully we will not be in this situation again where, well, I didn't learn this. You can go back in the manual and I don't know. I was very impressed with the woman, Beth. I mean, they really took their time to go through all of our files, and I don't know, I feel pretty comfortable with what they've given us, and it wasn't everything. I mean, if you look at what they presented us, what they were doing, I got the feeling that they were only pulling out the things that they really thought we needed. They didn't try to sell us like, here's this section, everything. They just pulled out a few things from each section that they thought would be valuable for us. So.
Right.
Okay.
Well, let me ask a question. So 4Lane is who we're using, and they want us to subscribe to QuickBooks. Okay, is there a competitive bidder? No.
They're a consultant for
Okay,
QuickBooks.
they're a consultant for QuickBooks.
Mhm.
So the time of maximum power is before you sign the agreement,
Mhm.
right? So it's entirely possible that we say, this is what we want, and give us a price and you got the deal. And it's in their interest to showcase what they can do and be in a position to add stuff, but to win the contract, it's entirely possible they're dropped down there are barriers to exit once you use QuickBooks.
Right.
And they understand the value of barriers to exit. So
Right,
they'll
they
almost give the upfront transaction.
Right. That's very well said, Paul. Just to remind the board, last month we approved a $3,000 number, I think it was.
2 or 3, yeah.
2.5 for them to take all of our files, analyze them, and many of them are corrupt. And so they did that analysis of all of our files. Then I was involved in the first meeting on Zoom, and then you have seen the second meeting. So as Tinka said, they were thoughtful in what they presented. But I agree 100%. Well, let's try and negotiate with them. Let's take another look, make sure it is delivering what we need and not in excess of what we need. And I think we can do that this week and then discuss, and then I would sign it, if that's okay with everybody.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
I am too.
Okay, resolve that we approve the mayor to sign the QuickBooks consulting agreement with 4Lane. Might I have a second ticket?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, now, folks, we're up to this issue with, that was presented to us earlier in the meeting by Jim Hayes. Does anyone have a particular comment? What's on the table, I believe, is the 3-year, 100% renewable. Is that correct?
That's the recommendation I heard. Yep.
That's the recommendation I heard.
What I recommend.
And yep.
Okay,
I agree.
okay.
Sounds reasonable. Done.
Does anyone have any comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So who's going to negotiate the spread?
I would
That
not
might-
want to, yeah, I wouldn't participate in that because I haven't been involved. I'll throw that to Jim or Josh or John. And you're referring to what Matthew
Matthew.
said? Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Who's doing that? And then how much, time do we have? Like, I'm guessing, the goal here is to vote on this tonight, and then how soon do we have to sign it, and how,
John, you
how
know the
can you
timeline?
go the spread?
I would think we can delegate John to negotiate. John, you've been front and center, correct, on this?
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm fluent enough to do that
Right.
type of negotiation.
Yeah.
Should we invite Matthew to do it?
I think Matt is actually the right person. If we're allowed to delegate to Matt, I would delegate to Matt.
Resident who's experienced in
Well,
energy.
he's also on a board, so he's now
He's on the planning board. Yeah.
Yeah, he can work with somebody, I presume, or with John.
I'm happy to, have him work with John. I think that makes the most sense.
Matt and Sean. Yep.
That work for you, John?
The return date is tomorrow.
Return date is tomorrow. Okay.
That's right.
If we have to, maybe we'll ask for 24 hours.
We just did that.
I know.
Well, I just think, I feel like we're just rushing into it. We just learned that you can negotiate the spread. I didn't know anything about that. Did anybody else on board know that? That there's a big spread that could be negotiated?
But I'm not aware if they're gonna negotiate the spread. I'm not aware if this company is gonna allow us to negotiate the spread.
I think that's a good question.
I think,
Yeah, the contracts that I've seen, and I'm not saying they won't negotiate it, but the contracts that we've seen, all 3 options, they're looking for an approval, a signature, and a date. We can always try, and I wouldn't not try. But the other thing is that, and we hope we're right, but the last time we waited 2 weeks, we got more and more of a savings. So maybe if we did have to wait another week, maybe the rates will go down even further.
maybe they go up.
I understand. I do. But
All right. Brian, do you know what we're talking about? Do you have any experience with other municipalities that have done this?
I don't, not with NYPA. I
Mhm.
don't have anybody I've worked with on that.
In general, are you familiar with any of these types of, do you think they would negotiate this kind of thing?
I honestly don't know.
Mhm.
They typically do or don't.
Mhm.
And usually there's cutoffs and then the rates either go up or down.
Jim, do we have a list of other municipalities that are doing this?
There are others. I could find out.
I know time is
Do
up.
you have,
Yes.
do you have
I-
what the spread is, what the range of spreads is?
I don't, sorry.
The actual dollar basis of that spreads may be small enough not to worry about it in this time frame. If we're talking about saving $500, it's just not worth it.
Yes. It's almost
See, I
immaterial.
think the person that I dealt with there is not the person that sets these rates. These rates are set with probably a very complicated formula, which depends on what the price is of natural gas today and oil and everything else. And these things are changing with time. So whether they would make an exception to the way they do things for us, I think it's questionable. I would agree with John with that, but I don't know the answer.
Yes, Josh.
I think they're basing the pricing off of forward curves, right? for electricity and the various fuels. And I think it can be a very quick conversation. I would have John, you work with Matt, you can have a conversation with these people tomorrow, and I think you'll find out very quickly if there's an opportunity to negotiate it or not. I don't think there's a lot of benefit to continuing to push this out. As someone earlier mentioned, it worked for us in our favor before. There's a good chance it works against us. So I think we just need to move forward and expeditiously and have Matt and John negotiate as best they can.
Yeah, and I agree, and dimensionalize the savings, and that may let you even make it a faster decision.
Okay,
Great.
good questions, everybody. So
The difference is small.
I'll call the vote. We know what we're going to do. So resolve that the Board of
Well,
Trustees.
Not necessarily. I have
Pardon
one
me?
comment.
Oh, okay, yeah, please.
I have one more comment because I mean, given the fact that we haven't received any of those WIA grants because they look at us as too wealthy a community, I don't understand why we would vote for the most expensive option, which is 100% renewable, which to me is really, I mean, there is no renewable. So we know that we're 100%. We know that we're going to get energy from fossil fuels because they cannot supply 100% renewable energy to us. So to me, it seems like a subsidy for a lovely idea of 100% renewable. And I don't understand why we would pay more knowing that it's not going to be 100% renewable. So that's my 2 cents.
Is there a annual agreement, 1, 2, or 3, or one of the 3 subsets that you'd be interested in?
So can I go, Tinka, I don't know if you missed the first part of the meeting where, and maybe what you're saying is we don't get these sort of incremental benefits because we're viewed as a wealthy community. But
No, I'm just saying it's not necessarily just by signing up doesn't mean that our chances of improving.
I understand, but I guess the way I look at this is if you look at the spread between 100% fossil fuel and 100% renewables, the differential is very little, as Jim explained, right?
I saw them. I agree.
Right. So it's very little, and I'm just making an economic case here for us, as opposed to. So yeah, is there an embedded subsidy there? Yes. Do we get a nice big check mark next to our name that says the Village of Tuxedo Park is, 100% renewable together with CCA, and then and this is the economic argument. We then get a bunch of subsidies from the state for other projects that we otherwise wouldn't be eligible for.
With no guarantee.
There's no guarantee, but I think it increases the probabilities that we're able to obtain those grants, which are valuable.
Why don't I ask John, what are the savings we'd be looking at in any of these that we would agree to, so that we put it in perspective for the public why we're debating this and what it really means for everybody in terms of village expenses?
Well, on option 3, the 3-year contract, using historical kilowatt hours and based upon the rate we're given in these contracts, 3-year contract, the third option, we'd be saving $90,000.
Per the 3-year term?
Per year.
Per year.
And then 92,000 or something like that or whatever.
Right. So then the differential over that 3-year period is $6,000, right? I think making that additional $6,000 investment and making it very clear that we, take the environmental issues seriously as a community opens us up for potentially other benefits from the state.
All right, so.
Also, I might just add, I said it before, but I might just add for Tinka's benefit, maybe she wasn't there, but if you look at the property that gets the highest taxes in the park, and you look at what they pay, the difference between the fossil fuel and the total renewable for them for 1 year would be $128. And this is a tax bill that's in the mid $50,000 range. So people are not going to notice this. And the village did sign a climate smart pledge in which they said that they were going to reduce their fossil fuel emissions. And so here's an opportunity to do it. It's an opportunity to do it that saves money. And it seems to me that that's really the way the village should go.
I would like that in my budget work to be able to have that additional money.
What, $128?
No, the savings of the 90.
Sure, every year.
I'll take 128 too, actually. All right, I take it. Do you prefer to abstain?
1% renewable, you're still committed to reducing fossil fuels, right?
I don't think we're going to get the same credit from the state, Tinka, for those grants.
It sounds like, Tinka, you might want to abstain on this vote.
You betcha.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and call the vote. Resolve that the trustees approve 3-year 100%. May I have a second? Not Tinka.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You?
Yeah.
Aye, okay. Thank you. I appreciate all the questions, Tinka. All right. So we have a situation where an employee of the Tuxedo Club drove through the South Gate with a trailer, and the gate fell down on top of the whatever was on the trailer and broke. And so we sent the bill to the club, and the club is refusing to pay it because they're blaming us because they say we're the ones that set the gate to go up and down automatically, even though it is noted everywhere. And in fact, on numerous occasions, the manager of the club called the chief directly and said, I have this vehicle with a trailer to come through. And can I do it? And the chief said, you know, look, that thing closes automatically. And so that happened 2 or 3 occasions before this one. And so I'm recommending that we put the bill back on the table. I think that they should pay it. Chief, do you want to add to that at all?
So basically, anytime a vehicle damages the gate, we bill them for it. This is not anything out of the ordinary. I have photos to give to the board of the, so it was a pickup truck that's registered in the safe passage system that the club registered. It's one of their vehicles. So we could not control them coming through the gate. They came in, the gate opened, and they were hauling a long boat, and the gate came down on top of the boat and caused a lot of damage and had to be repaired.
And we recommend that we can only control the gate at the front gate, the main entrance.
Correct.
But in fact, the club mentioned that they, you know, it's easier to go through the South Gate.
In the past, the club manager has called me and asked me for a favor to let them through because of where they were coming from. And I've always said to them, listen, you know, you're supposed to use the main gate for this, but I'll let you get through this time, and tell your driver that the gate closes automatically, so he's got to go quick. And it's never been a problem in the past, but this time was a problem.
Brian, any thoughts?
I do, but I'd rather give him his attorney-client advice in executive session.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to executive session with this matter.
I just want to hand you.
Oh, yeah, please. Okay.
I see that thing was on there. About the-
Yeah, it's okay. That's all right. Are we ready to go into executive session?
Mhm.
All? Yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us during the public hearing. We're going to go into an executive session. We will be coming back from
Did
Pardon?
we miss a couple of things?
Oh, we may have. What do you have?
Resolve to approve a letter granting preliminary approval. to
Yes,
connect
thank you.
to the
Yep.
sewer.
Yep, we did. Okay. Thank you. There is the owner of Hickory Hollow would like to have a letter from the board that he can use for banks, potential developers, et cetera, to connect to our sewer. And I've discussed that with the engineer, and it's physically possible. The town of Tuxedo, where this property is, has rezoned things so that he's considering now selling the nursery and putting up something, whatever it might be, and wanted to know if he would be able to attach to our sewer. So I'd like to craft a letter which has all the cautions in it. You know, it would have to meet all the permits and final approval by the board and the attorneys and the engineer, et cetera. But that's what he's requesting. So I have no problem doing that as long as it's crafted in a certain way. I can run it by Brian. So how do you feel about that?
Does the town have, would the town have any requirements for a potential development of some sort and how it connects to
If he sold
our
it to
sewer?
that, well, okay, good question. So if, that's right, you're on the planning board. So he might sell the land to the town. I don't know. And with that would go this letter saying that they could attach to our sewer.
Okay, so it's just permission, it's not.
It's permission
not
to
actually-
explore.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm good with
And
that.
Brian, you'll help me craft something that's
Yeah,
reasonable.
usually we do an agreement and have any of these issues in there. And it could be an agreement only to go to this person that doesn't necessarily run with the land.
Good point. Yeah, right. That's true too. Okay, Tinka, anything else that I've forgotten?
Yeah, I request draft a local law requiring contractors to report to
Yes.
the village
Thank you.
inspector.
We've discussed this in the past. I would like to ask Brian to draft something up that requires the contractors that work in the park to be sure that the projects they're working on have the proper permits. So before I request Brian to look at that, does anyone feel that, any comments on that?
Just a question, maybe Brian knows, is this some, a practice that's exercised in other municipalities?
I can't say that I know of one. I think if the concept is, I know we talked about, I don't know if this is the same idea.
It is,
that
yeah.
if they-
Architects and designers versus the contractors.
Right. A contractors, in other words, you could have requirements that they cannot work on properties where there's not a valid building permit or there's a stop work order or something to that effect. So either they should see a building permit, John, correct? They're posted on the site, the building permit or like the,
On the house or on the site somewhere.
right. And if there was a stop work order, that would similarly be posted. So there could be an obligation in a local law that if you don't see that building permit or you see a stop work order, you can't perform work, which would be a violation of the code. That I think is definitely something that could be enacted.
Okay. I mean, I think we're fortunate that we have a gate where the police can see a construction vehicle and say, hey, so you know there's a code
Mhm.
that says you can't do the work. Now, the next question is, John, how do you enforce that? Because, you know, if a plumber's at a house every day doing something because just, I don't know. I guess that's something that would require repeat worker would be a signal. It's probably something significant enough to require a permit.
Rather
It's not like,
Rather than putting them on the spot now,
okay.
we would consider that in the draft, any
Okay.
procedures, I think, because I don't even know the answer to that question
Okay.
right now, but it's a great question. And so is that all right with everybody if we proceed with that?
Yeah, and honestly, in that line, I don't think your concerns have been with, you know, a plumbing truck at one residence or something that, you know, might or might not require a permit. I think this is probably geared at the big project where it's clear, you can see, you know, they need a permit, they don't have one, that kind of
Okay.
situation. It might be very tough to enforce on the,
Yeah,
You know,
you want
somebody
the
did.
power to selectively enforce, but have a rule in place that you can then enforce. There can discretion on the part of
The building
inspector.
And we've had clear
yeah.
flaunting of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So, okay.
I think
It's sort
having
of,
a rule like that would be constructive, and then the decision is you have discretion about whether you want to enforce it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think if you have contractors facing a penalty, they're gonna say, sorry, you know, not coming in.
And the actual effect that we're looking for is that the resident then files the proper permits.
To get it done. Yeah.
It would save a lot of action if we had that in place in the last 2 years. Okay, Tinka, I'll leave it to you since you have an updated agenda and I don't have it.
No, that's it. And then, oh, and it did mention there that,
It could be
It was
retroactive,
retroactive to 2020, so which.
right?
Is that legal?
Good.
You can
Oh.
pass a law retroactive to.
No, not
2020.
retroactive, but the Well, you know what? What I was thinking of is if we could make this responsibility retroactive. But again, we can discuss that. If it's not something that we were able to do, then we won't do it. But moving forward, let's have a clean slate. That would be my ultimate goal, Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, and that's it. Now it's resolved to exit the regular meeting. That's,
To executive session at 8:04 for the purpose of discussing an employee matter, water charges, and legal matters. May I have a second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Thank you. All right, Chief, I think we don't need you, right?
Gate accident, maybe
Oh.
discussion